Hello, friends. Today's interview is with Christian Ray Flores. Get ready for a life story that is absolutely incredible. He was born behind the Iron Curtain. He traveled the world. He was in a Marxist family. And as the years went on and he began to see the crumbling of the Soviet Union, he began to take in all sorts of media from the Western world that began to get him to question everything around him. He became a pop star, and now what he does is he brings an incredible optimism, an incredible sense of hope to people just like you. He's a coach, he's a master, he's an amazing person. So please enjoy Mindful Mutiny today. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny Podcast. I'm Jeremy, and I founded Mindful Mutiny as a podcast, a community, and a commitment to live a high-frequency life. I want to help you cultivate purpose, clarity, and structure. I'm an experienced therapist, transformational coach, former executive, and psychedelic specialist. Go to mindfulmutiny.com to subscribe to my newsletter, schedule a consultation, or just to get more information about what my coaching can do for you. If you support positivity, I'd be honored to have you as a Patreon subscriber. On Patreon, there will be bonus material and a community of Mindful Mutiny fans that believe in human potential and living a high-value life. Also, check out the link in the description for my spring store with merchandise that supports the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Mindful Mutiny is sponsored by Exponential Intelligence. Exponential Intelligence teaches you how to raise your consciousness and be the most wise, evolved, and brilliant version of yourself. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. Mindful Mutiny is also sponsored by Pachamama Sacred Paths. Pachamama's mission is to facilitate individual awakening through sacred plant medicine, spiritual retreats, and ancient teachings, ultimately contributing to the collective ascension of consciousness. With over a decade of experience hosting retreats, Pachamama is distinguished by its commitment to ancient wisdom, shamanic practice, and ethical care for participants. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. And now, on to the show. Welcome, Christian Ray Flores, to the Mindful Mutiny program. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a really long time, and I think you listeners are really going to understand why. Christian Ray Flores is a multifaceted leader with a remarkable journey spanning continents and industries. A former pop star in Russia, he has entertained millions while making an impact as an evangelist, entrepreneur, media producer, and investor. Born in a UN refugee camp and having to go through historical events like the fall of the USSR and civil unrest in multiple countries, his life experience has shaped his passion for faith, freedom, and exponential living. He's the founder of Third Drive Media, the creator of Exponential Life Coaching Program, and a dedicated philanthropist through the Ascend Mission Fund. Fluent in 4 languages and deeply committed to his family, Christian continues to inspire through his music, writing, and mission to help others through purpose and impact. And Christian, I wanted to start at the beginning of your incredible story. You were born in a refugee camp in Chile. Can
Actually,
you talk about
that's
yeah?
slightly inaccurate. Okay, so I was born, sorry about that, but I was born in Moscow, Russia, and my parents moved to Chile when I was like several months old. And then just a few years later, we ended up in a refugee camp there.
Oh, wow.
After them, there was a military coup there. So my father was in a concentration camp. We ended up in the refugee facility that was hosted by the United Nations. And then that sent us basically traveling all over.
Okay. All right. And so when can I ask when you were born in Moscow? Because did you
Yeah.
leave as a result of turmoil there?
No, no, no. My parents were, I was born in 69, March of 69. And my parents they just met there in college. So, and they were both Marxist, my dad and my
Okay.
mom. And my dad's Chilean. So he went there for college. He was an engineering student. And when they graduated, they moved to Chile because that's where they wanted to live. The turmoil started in Chile because there was this military coup and tens of thousands of people got arrested and put in secret prisons and concentration camps. A bunch of people got killed, and my dad was one of them. and he made it out alive, luckily. And then we were refugees, and then we just ended up sort of getting asylum in Germany, then back to the Soviet Union, then to Africa, then back to Russia. So all of that stuff, military coup in Chile, civil war in Africa, and the fall of the Soviet Union, tanks in the streets of Moscow, all of those things happened by my mid 20s, so it's a
Wow.
pretty eventful youth, let's put it that way.
Well, it is, and your parents, as they're making decisions in their lives, they're being led to go to different places because they believe the next place is going to be more peaceful, or like because you ended up being in
Yeah.
these really difficult places.
I think they were really more, I mean, obviously the first, when we left Chile, we were just forced to, I mean, we were literally thrown out. Like about 200,000 people got thrown out of the country. And banned from coming back. So we're exiles essentially. And when we landed in Germany for a while, my mom was so shell shocked. She wanted to go back home, but it was not better. We were essentially living in poverty. We lived in a communal apartment there for a while. I was in hospitals, almost died there. My health was just terrible. And then my dad did go to Africa. Partially, it was an improvement, but it really was more of a cause-driven decision because they were such an idealistic couple, and they really believed in the cause. And Mozambique just gotten their independence from the Portuguese colonial powers, and they had a Marxist government, and that government invited expats, professionals that are sort of ideologically aligned to help rebuild the country. So they went for that.
Okay. And so how old are you when you're kind of becoming aware and you're understanding kind of the politics of the time in the area? Is this something that was you were very aware of as a child, or did you become more aware of those kinds of things as you got a little bit into your teens?
I think as a child, I was very aware, and completely unusually so, right? Disproportionately so, of human cruelty, justice, injustice, all that stuff, because I was like witnessing it, right? It's one thing to to read about history. The other one, there's a completely different thing to just be in the middle of it, right? Of this massive tectonic shifts in history where you're smack in the middle of it. Even as a child, I remember, standing outside of a concentration camp with my mom, and she's passing food through a soldier trying to get some food to my dad, like that kind of thing, right? That's not normal. Or bombings in Mozambique when there's the rebels in the jungle and the other countries that are fighting proxy wars in the country. I saw a plane got shut down over the Bay of Mozambique. I mean, things like that are just not normal. So you are aware of almost like this binary East versus West, um, proxy war, Cold War realities in a very immersive way. Now, when eventually, when I was now in my late teens, going to college, that's when my sort of understanding shifted and expanded, because by that time I'd lived in this was my third country where they were experimenting or were either leading the way in Marxism, socialism, things like that. So I was seeing the reality and seeing the contrast with the West through TV shows and music and books, and going, wait a minute, our life here sucks. And they seem to be doing all right over there, right? In spite of all the propaganda that are telling us that the West was rotting. I'm like, I'd like to be rotting sort of in a similar way if I can, right? And many of us felt that way. But on top of that, I was seeing the cracks show up in major ways. This is like late 80s, early 90s, where the system was collapsing, right? And I was right there, like food shortages. At the same time, I was studying economics. I have a master's degree in economics. So I was studying now the theory behind the thing that I'm seeing. And then that's where I became intensely anti-communist, and eventually ended up campaigning against the communists as a big pop star in favor of Boris Yeltsin, who's trying to defeat them. And so that matured around maybe late teens, early 20s.
Okay, so you get into music before the wall falls, right?
No, right after.
Right after, because
Yeah,
there's
because
enough
of
of a
that.
culture change that you're able to play music like that. Is that how that worked?
Yes, so it's first of all, it's a shift in the flow of information, right? So
Yes.
before the wall comes down, there's strict censorship, a lot of walls. You can't get Western music.
Yes.
Um, I mean, I'll have to tune into like a shortwave radio in the middle of the night to get the latest Western music. In the like the mid 80s, it was impossible, right, to get that. Now, when the wall comes down, that all of that awesome music, just world-class music starts flowing in, and it's sold everywhere. You can have complete access. The market gets freed up as a complete free market system. So even the media like TV, radio, newspapers, music labels, all of those things became privatized. So so it's almost like this massive shift where everything's open and free. And
Yeah.
then I can come in as this completely, underdog in the Soviet system. It would be an impossibility. I'm a darker skinned kid, a little bit of a foreigner, like it's a little confusing. I'm doing music that is R&B, pop, hip hop mix, which was decidedly un-Soviet, right?
Right.
There's no way I would have been able to succeed in that environment. And, and the whole thing was obviously censored and top down. Government sponsored everything. When the market freed up, I came in with extraordinarily good music by their standards, right? I had a work ethic. I knew about how to develop a look, almost like a brand. I could dance, I could sing, I could write. And the market said, yes, who is this new guy, basically, right? Because there's choices where you can showcase your stuff. And literally by the end of year one, I had three record contracts, a bidding war, basically, for to sign me up as an artist from three different labels.
And so this is like 91, 92.
It was 93, yeah.
N
By the end of
93.
93. Yeah, so I started 93. By the end of 93, I was on national television. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And was was there I don't want to rush your story here, but Marxism is inherently anti-faith, is it not?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, faith was suppressed for 75 years across all that space. Yeah.
So at what point do you start discovering Jesus?
I was sort of I got into first I was atheist, right? All my life.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know one person. I just recently realized this, by the way. I I was like, did I know personally, like have a relationship with one person who believed in God, for example, right? And I realized that I don't think I did until maybe I was 20, 21. Not one person. Like I knew these people existed, right? But I never had a conversation with someone like that and heard their side of the story. So uh, in college, I got into this Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, New Age movement. I had a friend who was into that, and he was sort of informing me, giving me books to read, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is a world I just
Yeah.
never experienced it. I never knew anything about it, but it made so much sense to me because atheism didn't. I just didn't know what the alternative was, right? I'm like, this just seems like a very two-dimensional, flat version of the human experience. It doesn't make any sense for me. And then I start reading this stuff, and of course, because the market was liberated slowly, you can get access to books and stuff like that, right? That explain things. And then I got into Christianity, and I had no intention to going the Christian way at all. Like, as a matter of fact, I thought it was just stupid, right? Like Christian people were just sheep. It was really a religion of control, and that was sort of my version of it. And I saw some of it. I saw enough proof of it on the surface in, let's say, the Russian Orthodox Church, where I would go like, okay, they're doing all these rituals, they're saying things no one understands. People are just sort of staying. I mean, you can see that there's an incongruence in the things that I observed personally, right? And so I had a very low opinion of Christians in general. I thought they were just not very smart people.
Sure.
And then, and then by I had a string of hits. I became really, really famous very, very fast. And I was like, I mean, I was literally performing in front of sports arenas. and traveling across the whole space. This ex-Soviet Union space was about 15 countries, right? So all the way from like it's 11 time zones, that was the space. So you go from the Baltic states that are right there in Europe to the southern states like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, all the way to like Vladivostok, which is like 100 miles from Japan, right? That's the space of the touring and the information
Wow.
flow. So yeah, so it was quite a bit. So it was very busy, and and I had a string of big hits, and I was at the literally at the peak of my career and clinically depressed,
Okay.
for a number of reasons. And basically um, my character just showed up some major cracks and flaws and things that I just had underdeveloped in my worldview, in my character. And this is part of the reason why I coach high performers now is because I
Yeah.
understand that just simply having a being in the top 1% of a space does not guarantee success, actually, not automatically. There's all kinds of dimensions that are come with that if you want to be a more successful and successful for longer. And that was my experience. I was like literally one of the best out there in doing what I do. And my inner life was sort of imploding. So I met this guy who was a missionary, Canadian missionary, and I realized this guy has dimensions of his life, his relationships, his peace, the peace he has, the way he treats, he interacts with his family. I mean, all kinds of things that I could just sense in a very, almost supernatural way. Like it's almost like feels like a revelation when I go, I want to have what you have, and that was it. So I said, hey, can you teach me? And he did, and I became a Christian fairly quickly in about 2.5 weeks, and I changed my life, my lifestyle, and I had a reputation. Okay, I had a reputation that was not aligned with Christianity whatsoever, right?
Okay.
So most people thought I was like, this is a phase. Oh, these creative guys, it's a phase, And and I stuck with it. I've been a Christian for what, almost 30 years now. So that's how it happened. It happened at the very peak of my career, which is unusual, I think, because most people become believers when they're in a major crisis of some sort. And I was in a crisis. It was just more of an internal crisis than an external crisis.
And at a certain point, and I'm so interested in your story, I don't want to rush it. You end up coming to the United States.
Yes, this was years later. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you come to the United States. This incredible life story that you've come to these, incredible lessons about overcoming things and everything like that, which I'm definitely going to do the deep dive into. You come to the United States and you've written a book about um, the American way and
Yes, I did.
reasons
Yeah.
to love America. And you had enough passion for it to actually write a book. When you came to the United States, what were the things that really hit you from the experience that you had being raised in a Marxist environment and
Yeah.
all of these things that had happened watching the fall of the Berlin Wall? You come to the United States, there's some things that really hit you.
I think for me, it's actually started hitting me way, way before, and then I
Gotcha.
had these aftershocks when I came, So or start visiting. I started visiting because I married an American, so we started going there for Christmas because she missed the American Christmas experience, and she would
Okay.
just be in tears, and I'm like, okay, this is not worth it. We have to just go, right, every Christmas. So, but it started earlier because and as a matter of fact, in the book, I basically explain that the almost like the frequency of the American dream, the frequency of the American ethos, I was sort of tuned to it, started being tuned to it when I was a child, actually, because I was in Africa, and this is okay. Think about this. This is mid to late 70s. This is one of the poorest countries in the world. There's the Marxist sort of takeover disrupted all commerce. So you're isolated. It's a beautiful, actually, place to grow up. For me, it was a beautiful childhood. but it was almost like you live in this bubble of the third world, like at the very bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
We had an okay lifestyle because we were expats. Somewhat, my dad got paid a little bit more than the locals, but not really as an Western expat. So we had a house, we had a car, but I couldn't even get a bike, right? So my dad would have to go to the neighboring country to get a bike for me, a BMX bike. And I was like over the top. Or hot dogs. We couldn't get hot dogs, like the most basic things. We couldn't get
Yeah.
books. We couldn't get clothes. We didn't have toys. There was no toy store. I had to call my dad several times and go, do I remember correctly? But like my mind is exploding now in hindsight, going, there was no toy stores, right? There's no appliance stores. We can't get a bike. He goes, nope, you're correct. There's none of those things were in existence. So there was no TV. So my dad built this tower over our house to get South African TV, like year 3. This is not even right away, right? Maybe year 4, actually.
That was permitted?
Yeah, it was permitted. There were the Marxist government there was not super like the Soviet government was.
Okay. All right.
They were just trying to survive the economic slump that comes inevitably when you kick everybody out who knows how to do anything, right? Which is what they did basically. They were just trying to like, okay, how do we even exist? So there was really not a lot of control, censorship. I mean, it was just one of the poorest countries in the world. It's the backwater of the world, right? And so he built an antenna, and we were watching South African television, and like in the evenings only, and they would show these American shows. And I remember thinking, watching Americans drive certain types of cars and have neighborhoods and houses and high rises and going on cruises. And I remember going, there are people and we're people, and how come our life is not even, it feels like a different planet, right? So those were the seeds, right? And then I became very, very interested in everything American. I would read books, biographies, and I would just study the entrepreneurial stuff a lot, the showbiz stuff as well. And it's sort of almost like I meditated my way into thinking like an American. So when I started doing music, I I really approached it as a show business kind of approach, not just a musician. And it was very validating. This is literally just recently, maybe like 2 years ago, on Instagram, the former head of MTV Russia, out of nowhere, like I know the guy, but I don't have a relationship with it, but he posted a clip of one of my videos and he said, mark my word, as the former director of MTV Russia, show business in Russia started with Christian Ray, you know? So
Yeah.
he could recognize that vibe, that it was more than just somebody with a guitar playing, but it was show business, right? And so I sort of intuited my way from a distance, almost like I was tuned to the frequency, and it really helped me entrepreneurially, even in my first sort of success stories in my early 20s. But when we moved to the States, there was like these aftershocks. I I tell in the book, I tell the story that we went to the US for Christmas. I think I was in Denver at the time. Deb's parents lived in Denver. And Deb goes, hey, let's go to Petco to get some gifts to our dog. We had a Yorkie in Moscow. And we went and we go into the pet store. And I know the concept of a pet store. I've been to one or two like smaller ones. So I walk into Petco and I realize it's a massive supermarket for pets, right? And I like turn to her, and it's almost like this culture shock. I say, this is a supermarket. The whole thing is for pets. She goes, yeah. And I storm out of the store, and I almost like hyperventilate. I'm so enraged. And she goes, honey, what's going on? She goes, people are starving, right? And you have supermarkets for pets. And at the time, it was really more of an indignant response. But eventually, what it hit me is that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having such prosperity, such capability for purchase and for choice, such opportunity for all the people that build everything from the aquariums to the pet food to sell and to serve other people. And what a wonderful thing that is, that a nation exists where things like that are possible, right? But at the time, it was just such a massive contrast for me, where I realized the level of prosperity is beyond what I can even almost like emotionally process at the time. So yeah, so that's just an illustration, right, of some of the culture shocks that I've experienced.
So you and I grew up in very, very different realities. And I was born in the South Bay area of California in the
Mhm.
late 1970s. I was raised very much in Ronald Reagan's America with this concept that there was nothing that we couldn't do as
Yes.
a nation. This
Yeah.
real strong concept of American exceptionalism, this idea that we can do it. We have the greatest cars. We have a space program. We've walked on the moon. These things, right? It was really
Yeah. Mhm.
that, and that reality in I'm just kind of summing it up here, has I believe led to a bit of this taking it all for granted space that I believe that our nation is in right now. And there's this kind of hyperventilating right now over the cost of eggs.
Mhm.
And when there's so many other things that we can go and buy, we have everything still at our fingertips. And when the pandemic came through, there was this run on toilet paper, which in hindsight seems really quite odd. And I kind of chalk that up to I don't know that us as a civilization know exactly what to do with something isn't right in the system right now. And so this kind of craze of toilet paper, as if you can eat toilet paper, became the thing to do because there was this rumor that we wouldn't have any. To just simply make the point that your brand is about resilience. Your
Mhm.
brand, it comes from this early life where you saw real suffering and your family had to do things that were about real survival, about real understanding how the world works and how to get your needs met. And you come to this nation where, we have come to take a lot of our abilities, our freedoms, our market for granted, and that there's this kind of sense of, gosh, well, everything is so bad when everything comparatively is really still quite good, and comparatively to, many of the things that you have seen in your young life. And you work with people from a real different mindset
I do. Yeah.
on how to build resilience into the things that you do. And can you talk about like the clash of these two worlds in your life and the way that you see how the opportunities are that we often take for granted in Western civilization?
Yes, I can. And I think it really excites me because one of the I would say shadow sides, every gift, every goodness, every blessing has a shadow, right?
Sure.
So the the shadow side of American prosperity is an addiction to certainty
Oh,
in
wow.
people, you
Uh-huh.
know? We become accustomed to it. We're very, very comfortable, and we have become addicted to certainty. And certainty, an addiction to certainty creates weakness and fragility. And basically, when I work with people, when I speak in forums like this to your audience, I try to basically explain, look, be grateful. First of all, be grateful, right? Be grateful that you have a level of certainty that most people on the planet do not enjoy on so many levels. Like even our political ups and downs are really more emotional than a danger to your lifestyle, right? Yes, there's some economics that go up and down, but there's nothing even comes close to, let's say, your country. I was in my mid 20s. I got my, you know, I think I got a big check from an endorsement that I did with Head and Shoulders. Yeah, shampoo had a lot of hair, right? And I had this big check, and he got it in rubles, and a friend who's a banker calls me and he goes, "Hey, the currency is going to devalue by more than half within the next day or two. Transfer your rubles into dollars." And this friend of mine, who was an insider, basically saved me, right? But nothing like that, nothing resembling that will happen in America. Nothing. Like there's not going to be a civil war. It's highly, highly unlikely, regardless of what people say about that, you know. Like it's just, but most countries, many countries have this massive, massive problems. Economic, civil unrest, um, war, dictatorships, oppression, massive censorship, persecution, uh, overinflated sort of governments that really go after their people, lack of opportunity, massive. America doesn't have even a fraction of that. So okay, let me establish that baseline, right? Okay,
Yeah.
you have it good. That's what I'm saying, right? So okay, so but if you the shadow side of that is that you get used to it. So your baseline of certainty is so high that in that moving up in your life when it comes to fulfillment, finding your niche, creating something for yourself that is really much more aligned with your giftedness, your assignment of almost, right? Utilizing your talents in a unique way and doing something risky becomes increasingly hard when you're addicted to certainty. So it's almost like a paradox because in America we can do anything theoretically on paper, right? That's the umbrella mindset. But in real life, I'm shocked at how many people can't take a risk to save their lives, and they collapse at the first or second or third sign of trouble in a startup, for example. Like 95% of startups fail. Most of the failure in startups, and I actually talk and I advise startup founders and I talk to venture capitalists, the highest level of failure in startups is not the product, it's not the service, it's not product market fit, it's not even capital, it's people. People just fold like a house of cards, right? Uh, it, it's just true. So, and in there lies a huge opportunity, right? Because if most people fold, if most people don't have this level of resilience, and I actually prefer to talk about anti-fragility as a quality that anybody can acquire, which basically means you're fragile, something hits you, you just fold. You're robust, essentially. Something hits you, you sort of bounce back or keep going. Anti-fragile is something hits you and you actually grow, get stronger, more agile, more intellectually sort of flexible, etc. You maneuver better, all of that. So if most people are either in a fragile state or even a robust state, if you develop the capacity to be anti-fragile, you have a complete unfair advantage over most people. And you can totally develop that. And that's what I get real passionate about it because I sort of know the mechanics of that from the inside out because of my origin stories, right? And it's really exciting because even though you don't share my traumatic past, I can teach you how to navigate your present and shape a different future using some of the lessons and some of the almost like the abilities and skills that you can develop even in your present right now.
There's this really popular saying that keeps echoing in my mind that's really going around the right now, and it's the whole like strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. That
Yes.
that whole concept, which I mean, I toss that around in my head like a lot of the time, and I'm kind of seeing a lot of this occurring right now. This thing that you're talking about, this lack of willingness to take a chance,
Hmm.
it is something that I've watched so many of my colleagues fall into, particularly when it comes to getting into a position with a company that gives you a high salary and an incredibly unfulfilling position for that salary.
Yeah.
And I watch people get into that and go, "Oh, I won the lottery. I can
Yeah.
do this horrible job for 20 years, put my kids through school, and just live my life outside of this. And I see these people not developing themselves, not
Yeah.
challenging themselves, not becoming a higher version of themselves. And just like the same person I talked to 5 years ago is this person I'm talking to today, without a whole lot of, really a personal challenge to become better. And so it sounds like a lot of the thing that you deal with in people that you are training is
Hmm.
letting go of this self-limiting just addiction. I think you said the addiction to certainty, this
Yeah.
this fatalistic need for security that
Yeah.
people have in,
Hmm.
and you see that in particular in countries like the United States that have become decadent. Would you say that?
I would say I wouldn't even say decadent. I think it's stagnated.
Okay.
Would be a better, at least decadent. You're overflowing with such, you know, wealth and choices and stuff like that. And maybe that's not a good use of your wealth and choices, but at least you feel that way. But I think when a country is so, I don't know, slowed down by fear and by self-loathing almost, on a national level,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know, it's just it is to somebody like myself, and I can promise you, almost everybody you can talk to who comes from places like I came from are puzzled by this. Coming in, we look around and we're like, guys, what are you complaining about? Okay, why don't you just work and better yourself and assimilate and invent and create and innovate and produce value. This is an incredible place. And why would you not do this? And so I think that's why immigrants, I mean, and that's part of the strength of America. America has always been fueled by people who come in with such a higher level of motivation and boldness and almost like reckless abandon that it just pushes right forward. And I think that's also part of the reason, the irony, right, is that sort of new blood, the right type of new blood, not the type of immigrants that come in to sort of suck at the teat of the government, right?
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
But the type that comes with innovation and creativity and ideas, the things that they want to see happen, those are the kind of people that actually move the culture forward.
Yeah. Can you talk about why? And you talked about a little bit, is why should an American be proud to be an American?
Because this is a place that and this is, if you think about it, for most of human history, thousands of years, the the standard of living across the world was not much different from place to place and not much incrementally better from century to century, like at all, compared to the last 200 years. And in the last 200 years, of all the countries in the world that took advantage of the technological advances, the advances in civics, advances in cultural development, um, and a myriad of other factors, America became the epicenter of innovation, of wealth, of prosperity, of peace in the country, obviously, of generosity, of faith, family values. I mean, and I have 10 chapters in the book, and I basically go one chapter, one reason. And I'll give you the concept, and I'll give you a story to illustrate, and I give you all kinds of quotes around people that commented on that thing, right? So that's sort of the idea. And I think the West has an illness to it, perpetuated by certain people that have agendas. And the illness is this self-loathing, this guilt about being who they are. And that is not a good place to be. It's really not a good place to be. And it's the opposite of the thing that you mentioned when you were born in a certain era where there's a collective consciousness going, we can be better. And it doesn't mean that we do everything right. It doesn't mean that you don't repent of the national sins. But what it means is we will repent of our national sins. We will right the wrongs. We will change. We will evolve. But we are Americans. We are here to progress. We're here to build. We're here to innovate. And that kind of spirit is what brings the United States as it's a very distinct place, right? Even now, compared to even the evolved sort of industrialized West, is a very different place. I mean, 5% of the human population lives in America, and we produce 25% of the global GDP. That is a good reason, in my opinion, because we can talk all kinds of ideological sort of ideas and how the things that we've done wrong, and people are messy. Of course, they'll do wrong. There's always evil people, but to paint the whole country with this negative, self-loathing brush, it's just ridiculous. I think it's just really, really wrong.
Being a person of faith as you are, as your faith has grown through the years, how does your relationship with God inform the way that you work with people and the philosophy that you teach?
Oh, that's a deep question. I think the most important thing for me is this concept of being image bearers of God, human beings being image bearers of God, imago Dei, right? And once you really allow that to sink in, when you start just seeing how loved you are, how precious you are, how unique you are, and that you're giving this, you have a unique assignment and a mission and a higher purpose to your existence. To me, there's nothing more motivating to reach higher and to work harder and to serve more people than that. And also to treat others with the utmost respect and love, and also treat others as image bearers of God. So to me, that is probably like a core, like a backbone of everything. And when I chose sort of this very specific niche of helping people in high performance, professionally, spiritually, personally, because I believe that most of us um, never choose to live that out, never choose to fully embrace that we were created for a higher purpose. And we just settle, you know? We settle for something much less because it's safer, because of that addiction to certainty, because perhaps maybe we would find ourselves out of line, maybe would be rejected, maybe would be shamed for failing. And the most important resource we have is the human resource, the most important by far. And we know this, by the way, in America, same thing, right? Rich, highly resource rich country where there's prosperous people, and there's plenty of countries that have all kinds of natural resources, and people are miserable and unfree and not prosperous. So it's not the resources, it's not the natural resources that's the key to human flourishing, is human resources, right? And when I talk to people, I go, do you realize just how much more you have that to almost like mine in yourself as a treasure and offer it to other people? And so I guess does that make sense? I'm probably a little bit all over the place, but that's the core,
You're
the
not.
backbone of what I do.
You're not at all over the place. In fact, it's really led me into the next question that I'm kind of developing my head, which is the sinfulness that is involved in ignoring your talents. And
Mhm.
there's something that I wrote in my book. It's not an original thought of my own, but a salary is an agreement that you make with a company to uh, sell your dreams away.
Mhm.
Essentially, this concept that and some companies are great, okay, but a lot of people just want a job and get into something not because they're passionate about it or they have a particular talent for it, but because it pays the bills. And there's also people who have amazing talent that never actually gets realized because
Yeah.
those years are spent serving a different master, if you will. And we have these innate, wonderful talents that are given to us by our creator. And
Hmm.
can you talk about the inherent sinfulness that there is in not exploring, in not developing those inherent
Hmm.
talents that we have?
There's a there's a parable that Jesus tells in the book of Matthew, which is normally referred to as the parable of the talents.
Yes.
And of course, there's three people. There's a master, and he gives 5 talents to one, 4 talents to the other, and 1 talent to the third. And the parable is really it's incredibly hard to process because the master gives the talents, and the expectation of the master is not that you conserve or even thank him for the talents. The expectation of the master is that you multiply it. So he gives you 5 talents and he expects you to bring back 10. That's basically the parable. And the one guy who is given 1 talent, so it's really cool because the expectation is proportional to the talents given. And it's not about the ultimate amount of what you're given, but did you multiply it? That's basically the parable. So the guy who is given 1 talent, he buries it in the ground, and it says very specifically in the parable that he did it out of fear. And he's the one who is treated very harshly, and he's basically called a lazy servant, you know. And I would
Yeah.
say what you were referring to, I think, is that whatever it doesn't even matter if you're a CEO of a company and you're making high 6 figures, you might be that 1 talent guy because you're not multiplying what was given to you. Or you could be, a janitor or sort of somebody who just came into this country with no education, and you just, flipping burgers, and you take that and you multiply it. And there's so many stories that illustrate that. And I think the principle is not the scale, the grandeur, or the prestige, or the status of what you do, but are you multiplying what was given to you? And those are the things that really excite me, because then it's almost like this great equalizer in the sense that whoever I work with, it doesn't matter if they're just a young professional or somebody who manages billions of dollars, and I have that whole range of people that I work with. What matters to me is that how we're going to multiply what was given to you in a way that pleases the master, pleases the giver of the gifts.
Hmm. The self-talk that so many people have, the negative self-talk that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have this talent. And this way that these voices get magnified, these voices become bigger for people. Can you talk about how you help people reverse those ideas, those things? Because people are coming to you because they know that they have something, but maybe along the way they haven't explored it. They haven't had the confidence. They haven't had the courage to
Yeah.
do it. How do you break that up and get people to go for broke?
So I'm going to give you 3 quick examples because I want to cover some multiple scenarios. So one story is of an athlete, and he's Olympic level athlete, and he retires. So with his retirement, his identity sort of dies. So when I met him, he's literally at the top, at the peak of his capabilities, but just in the next season, and he's broke, divorced, no job, unemployed. He can't imagine the next step. And we work on the spiritual side of things, on the family side of things. He gets eventually finds this great lady, just incredible marriage to this day. The we sort of mine for the things that can be used as multipliers in the next phase from the past. So you can't really be a professional athlete anymore, but you can use this and this and this and this, and you can build this other thing. He starts um, um, a commercial enterprise dealing with gear, exercise gear, and it goes incredibly well, still going well. He becomes then the top executive in the federation of a sport, first of all nationally, then internationally, globally. So that's like one trajectory, right? Here's another one. A young guy, He studied finance. His family is in finance. He studied finance. Doesn't quite fit. He's going into commercial real estate. He sort of grinds away in a company for about 6 7 years. It's mind numbing. It's robotic. He doesn't feel fulfilled. Doesn't see a future. And he's like, I want to just give up and just go somewhere else and do anything else. And we realized in the process of working together that no, 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 no. He has an incredible cultural DNA, the upbringing, even the network that he has from his extended family makes him very uniquely valuable in this space. He just doesn't know how to how to amplify that, how to package that, how to productize that. And then we identified a few things that are inherent to his liking, like this is uniquely him, that basically created a new model in his industry. And he started his own company as a result, and now he's on his way doing that. A third example, this is somebody who has done who had all kinds of what you say, right? Bad self-talk,
Yeah.
family dysfunction, bullied, um, fairly successful, built $1 million a year sort of small business that stagnated because of that self-talk, you know? It was just just flat. And I mean, good living and everything, but utterly uninspired, not multiplying. And that because it was static, it sort of tapered off and died. And I'm in the middle of working with this gentleman, and it's unbelievable how cool it is to say, okay, we just mine for the goodness, for the treasure. What are your skills? What have you done? And then you start unveiling. This guy has trained thousands of people in the art of not sales, but the art of communication, right? In business, thousands. Somehow he didn't find it valuable to even say it that to me, right? Like I had to dig for that, you know.
Yeah.
And then he's also an ultra endurance athlete. The guy did, and apparently there's an exercise that imitates or mimics Hell Week in the Navy SEALs, and he did that thing, passed that challenge at age 55. He's
Wow.
climbed 20 of the highest peaks in the United States. None of those things were in the resume, in the conversation. Even his energy didn't communicate those things. And I go, "Are you serious?" So like literally yesterday, we came up with this a pitch for the thing that he's building that includes all of those elements in one. And you can just see him get just light up. He goes, "I'm like, this is you, right? I'm not making this up." He goes, "Yeah, that's me." Does that sound compelling to the people that you might be offering this to? He goes, absolutely. So these are just a few examples that I want to give you about that.
No, that's amazing because I'm in the coaching space too. And when you can reflect back to the person what their actual value is,
Yeah.
and they can see it and they go, I guess I knew that, but for some reason I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah.
But deep down, I think that I did know that, but we all have these
Yeah.
rejections and traumas and things that happen through our lives that can really have hit after hit after hit on our sense of who we are and our own value. And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's also many other ways in which we tend to diminish ourselves, right? And the good coach helps pull that out of the
Yes.
person and display it in a way that is vivid
Hmm.
and that is actionable
Yeah.
and is promoting of the person's just light that flame up, pour gasoline on that little flame in there that
Yeah.
may have gotten low a long time ago through the kind of trials and errors of life. And it's been a long time since someone had a coach or a mentor sort of thing. And so your whole your whole technique is about helping people see the exponential value that they have
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
reflecting it back to themselves. And when you see this, when you help somebody see it for themselves, can you talk about the way in which their life and their value improves?
Well, it just changes everything. I think I think it's the difference between the guy who has he has a talent, and if you look at people go, talent is like the ability. Actually, talent is a measure of money, which, and it's I don't remember exactly what the amount is, but it's a large amount of money, a talent of gold, a talent of silver, right? And but it's the difference between the guy who has this pretty good amount of money and it's in the ground, right? It's my friend who he's a top athlete and it's in the ground versus the top athlete who has multiplied and expanded the same abilities, the same giftedness, the same grit, the same coachability that athletes have, the same um, discipline that is daily into something that it builds a new family, a new business. His authority in the sport. My buddy, who is sort of showing up in the office, this young executive in the commercial real estate business, and he's just sitting in this mind-numbing meetings about quotas, of sales quotas, and try harder. Well, he has a background of relational warmth and friendship and two generations of people in finance and incredible connections and the ability to create unique environments to invite people who are interested in commercial real estate into this boutique experiences where they can feel and sense and express trust towards other people who they might work with. That's a multiplier, right? Same thing as my buddy that I was talking to you like yesterday. This is like 2 hours of my time was creating this thing that it's in the ground. It's been in the ground. It's one talent. And what we're doing is we're extracting it from the ground and we're creating a multiplying effect. And he's looking forward and I'm like, do you see this? And he goes, I can see this. So and sometimes it takes a guidance. So I think that's why most coaches have coaches, right? Because it's not enough to know. You have to have someone who sort of provides that energy and that almost like looking over your shoulder guidance, and also community, right? So that's part of the reason why I have cohorts, is that everybody's on the journey in one way or another, and somebody's having a great week, somebody's having a terrible week. And if you're around people who speak faith and vision and value into your life, that's what creates that multiplying effect, right? That's the 5 talent becoming 10 talent
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, you can Google me. You can go to my website, exponential without the E, exponential.life. That's the coaching. Um, there's a really cool assessment there. If you go like halfway through the page, it's called the exponential scorecard. And it's a really great way to answer a bunch of questions, maybe like 40 questions. It takes like 7 minutes to take. You get a report on the most important dimensions of life and where you stand in those dimensions. It's eye-opening. Sometimes it's encouraging, sometimes a little bit discouraging, but it's reality. And I think it's really important for people to assess it. So I highly recommend taking that.
Here's the point in the podcast where I tell you what I love about you.
Oh, that is nice. That's fantastic. I love that.
What I love about you is the incredible way that you have taken an unbelievable story, a story that the average American citizen has a hard time even imagining. Your travels through the world, your childhood growing up in a completely different reality than what so many of us came to know as the world. And you've taken this and you've brought it to people to help enrich their lives through hope, through optimism, and through an incredible investment in individuals. I love that you were so brimming with creativity that once that wall came down, all of a sudden you are exploding onto the world stage as a voice of people who had been so unbelievably oppressed for such a long period of time. And you became a voice of inspiration, a voice to aspire to. And you became this icon. And then in the next stage of your life, you find Jesus and you become a humble servant. From the stadium lights to the humble servant, where you come to this incredible new land and you recognize all of the wonderful things that were absent in your earlier life, and that creates in you such a sense of no limits, no limits to what you can do if you actually go for it. And what it's done is it's made you be able to uniquely see things that some of us were raised to be kind of blind to take for granted, to not appreciate, and to even mock or deprecate. And your infectious joy, your infectious optimism, your incredible hope for what can be is the kind of thing that makes other people want to be a better version of themselves, to elevate into a higher version of what it is that they can be. Because I think there's a dull understanding from each of us that there is something great in us, but it is so common to just go, yeah, but that takes risk. And risk is something that my parents told me was a bad thing. And so I'm going to stick with something that's sure, and that's fine, but it doesn't make for a very good story. And so your personal story, helping other people make an extraordinary story for themselves, it is the greatest gift that you could give to a person, is to help them actually see themselves, actually believe in themselves, and actually go, stop believing the lie that the place that you were born into is somehow a horrible dystopia. There is so much hope. You can do so much. And I can tell you because of where I've been. So that personal story that helps other people stop living in the delusion that they are somehow limited by some invisible fence that they have built around themselves. That is an incredible gift that you keep giving to people. And I just want to thank you for bringing that here.
Thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it. Yes, yeah, and you're absolutely right. It really does excite me and light me up, and I feel very fulfilled when I have these interactions with people that start seeing that talent that's under the ground, and they can dig it up and they go, oh, it's not even enough that I have it. I can multiply this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Well, thank you so much for being on Mindful Mutiny, and I've appreciated having you. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Leave a review. That's how we grow. And remember, in a lifetime, there are more decisions than anybody can count. Living the highest version of yourself is the most rewarding thing that you can do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.